Welcome to the 19th episode of Comic DNA. Today, we will be talking about Sleeper by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips, first published by Wildstorm in 2002. I am Aaron Walther, and with me as always is Luke Thompson-Moritz.
Thank you very much.
And for this episode, we welcome back returning guest, Derek Farris.
Thank you for having me.
I remember your name correctly, yes?
Yes.
Okay, good, because I didn't want to ask while I was typing up everything. Okay.
I won't ask you to spell it.
Yes. So Derek, everybody will remember that he was the guest we had on our Batman episode when we did Gotham by Gaslight and Gotham Noir. So, Derek, when we did that episode, that was the first time you had read Gotham Noir, correctly?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So, and you, if I recall, you liked it, correct?
Yeah, I loved it.
Yes. So, I figured, well, you know, if you really liked Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips on Gotham Noir, then we should try out some of their other stuff that they went on to do. And so we're going to start with Sleeper. The first 6 issues of Volume 1, which is collected in trade paperback called Out in the Cold. And Sleeper is a spy noir comic. It takes place in the Wildstorm universe, and that's kind of one of the main, like if you're not familiar with the Wildstorm universe, I can kind of see not really like having to kind of get familiar with it. But the Wildstorm universe is basically, it was a superhero universe that was started by Jim Lee for his Wildcats book when he left Marvel and started Image. And then it kind of grew to develop some of the other books that Image was doing. And then later when Wildstorm split from Image, some of the stuff got out of it. But anyway, it sort of like slowly evolved and developed into its own thing. But it was like this superhero universe that had a more science fiction edge to it. So it wasn't quite as like classic superheroes, and it was more science fiction and spy and crime noir, but with superheroes, you know, still. So that's kind of the setting for this book. So the main character for Sleeper is a guy by the name of Holden Carver. He's got his like code name, which is the Conductor, but he usually just goes by Carver or Holden.
He makes note of it in his book.
Exactly. Yeah, he makes note of that. And the basic story is that he is an undercover agent. He's working for the good guys, for like the superhero CIA essentially, and he goes undercover to work for a superhero, or I should say an organized crime syndicate of various super villain type of characters.
And the craziest part about that too is he even actually references that there is a CIA. So this is is even further above.
He says something like the organization they're in. It's like they make the CIA look like the IRS, or something like that. Yeah. So this is like definitely playing on like a grand scale. But yeah, basically he is undercover as a villain. And it gets brought up in this book a little bit. It kind of becomes the main driving point that the only guy that knows he's undercover is in a coma, so he has no way of knowing if he can get out or come in from the cold, you know, to like go back to being a good guy essentially. And nobody knows that he's a good guy because, of course, in order to be a double agent, you have to have a very convincing story for the bad guys to believe that you're a bad guy now. So they have all officially, he's a bad guy. Like, nobody in the government believes that he would be a good guy because it's a very convincing story, apparently. Luke, obviously, I know this was the first time you've read this book. Derek, you too. What did you guys think about, just give me your first impressions. I know you, I'm sure you had certain expectations, it being a Brubaker Phillips book, but first impressions, what did you think about the book?
Yeah, honestly, the style is the same too as I believe it was it Noir?
Yeah, Gotham Noir.
Noir. You can tell that the pages are very similar. I like that because that felt familiar, and the espionage, it really comes through heavy with this book, and I expected that. When we first talked about this, I had some high expectations, but the book actually still somehow surprised me with the way that it was turned out. Because you got all the elements of the characters there. You got all these guys. They do have powers and stuff, but in the background you see guys in capes and uniforms that look like your traditional superheroes, but it's still sci-fi and stuff. And because in the beginning of the book, he touches the artifact, the alien artifact. That's how he becomes the Conductor. So that, as far as that goes, I mean, I was pleasantly surprised because I had the synopsis, you told me before, and this time I went in and was still like, wow.
Yeah.
This is great. And this was early morning for me, too. Usually I would have waited the entire afternoon, but I got hooked, man, because I read it all on the fly right there.
Yeah.
That's what I did. But I especially love the characters, too. Their names, Genocide.
Yeah.
That guy's great. The character designs, too. Just the way that they look. The detail in the characters' designs are actually spectacular. Especially with the way that it works on the page and the coloring and everything, and the dark shading.
Yeah. Big credit to Sean Phillips on that.
Yeah, and then it's one of the few times you actually see, like, good muscle definition in the comic. I appreciated that, because most of the time you see a Superman drawing and they usually kind of suck.
Or they just have, like, kind of, like, made-up anatomy.
Yeah.
Like, everybody was, like, they looked like a real person.
Yeah, Genocide looked like if Sergeant Hayford hadn't gotten fat.
Yeah.
And the Venture Brothers.
He looks like Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, yes. He really does.
Yeah, but he's a believable, strong guy.
Yeah, he's just
a
big wrestler kind of body type.
And nobody's powers are really that off the wall. They're just unique enough to make the book great. And for it being sci-fi, they toned it back more than I expected. I expected for it to get a little out of hand. It didn't, and I like that about it. Yeah. And like we said earlier, we were talking about it, and it was a very self-contained story. And each chapter, I don't even necessarily know that you would have to read them in order.
They had a continuity, but
each one you could personally get into.
Yeah.
And like when it got to the Miss Misery chapter, that was my personal favorite chapter of hers, like her backstory and everything. One of the things that I really did enjoy was they did a good job showing that this guy is in deep cover and that he's really struggling between good and evil. Because he's got to commit heinous acts to keep up appearances.
Yeah.
So they're definitely telling the best deep cover story that they can for what's going on.
Yeah.
And kudos to them for being able to contain such a wild concept and really tone it down into this refined book.
That was one of the first things I noticed too, like because you were talking about how much you like the characters. I love how unique these powers were. Like that's one of my big drawing factors is like seeing how creative people can get with superpowers. They're not just going, "Oh, he's got super strength."
Right.
But it's like I love too that so many of the characters like looked like stock film noir characters. But they were in this superhero universe, so they had to expand them a little bit. Like Miss Misery looked like straight up a dame.
Yeah, a femme fatale.
Yeah, a femme fatale, Jessica Rabbit style character.
That redheaded sex pot.
Yeah, and that coming from Gotham Noir, I expected that to a degree, but it still roped me in very fast. Because like a lot of the time we talk about how much we love the art and all these books, but Brubaker Phillips books kind of hold a little bit of a special place because I love noir style, so this was it hooked me as soon as I started reading it, and especially when I found his power out how he was the pain receiver,
he's like a pain battery or
like
a conductor. Yeah,
they even do the scene. I guess we can just kind of hop right into
the book sure.
Because we need to do the Brubaker stuff because we did it.
No. I think we talked about Brubaker in the.
What's interesting to note too, right before we started this, Derek was saying he didn't know Brubaker wrote one of his favorite Joker stories.
Yes.
Yeah, that shocked me, and I'm living with you. So.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised because I've read this book several times over. It's a big graphic novel called The Man Who Laughs. And it's basically an origin story for the Joker that kind of breaks out of the Killing Joke tradition. And don't get me wrong, I love the Killing Joke, but this book, it really had his spin on it. And once again, we were back to the guy understanding how to write Batman, because Batman had to be on his A game in the book. And that's kind of, you can see it in his books. Like in one of the things that he does, especially when it comes to character development, which is beautiful on his end, he knows how to do it. Everybody's personality is tied into their power and plays off of each other. Everyone's. It would be a complete disservice to not even acknowledge that, because Miss Misery, my favorite character in the book, hands down. Her power, it's not even necessarily a power, but she got sick and she had to do bad deeds, so she kind of without it being an option for her, she pretty much fell on the side of the spectrum of evil, so that she could be good, so that she could be healthy, self-preservation, and she smokes like a chimney, and she's constantly kicking somebody.
I love that even
awesome.
the main character even makes the little note of that. Like, I saw her smoking so much that she could kill a Chinese country.
Yeah.
But no, this book was phenomenal. Obviously, this book is phenomenal. We would be doing it otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's a quintessential Brubaker Phillips book from what I know.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still really kind of stepped it up a notch from Gotham Noir in my eyes. Like,
This is the second thing that Phillips and Brubaker.
Gotham Noir.
Yeah, they did. Gotham Noir was the first thing they did together, and then I think they went on to do Sleeper was the next thing that they did.
The other thing too is I didn't realize until they referenced the Wildcats in the book.
Right.
I was familiar with the Wildcats before knowing this universe, and I knew Grifter because
this actually is a spin-off of Grifter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Sometime later on, apparently he appears in this actual Sleeper universe. I know that, but I was pleasantly surprised because in the movie The Flashpoint Paradox, they actually have Wildcats characters in it. They have Grifter teaming up with Batman.
Yeah, I think officially now the Wildstorm universe is one of the new 52.
It is.
So yeah, that explains that. But that's where they're at now. But yeah, the Sleeper characters would all be a part of that, of the Wildstorm universe. They just don't get
acknowledged.
Well, they wouldn't get used as much because they're not as much superheroes. Like as we said, Sleeper is definitely it's more of an espionage story.
The superhero stuff is kind of background.
The superhero stuff is just all background dressing.
Like, and I love that.
Yeah.
I love that you could see them. There was a scene where they were actually in the titty bar where they were. And you could see there was just superheroes. There was all these dudes, especially like they showed one guy in particular who was apparently a heavy hitter superhero-wise in the universe.
That was a super villain bar, I think.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. And they were like, even he's coming down to the slums to get to come to the titty bar, and so he shouldn't be anywhere near here.
So they can get treated like rock stars.
Right. Yeah. The main character even notes that like everyone wants to feel like a rock star because everyone does.
Yeah.
It's such a natural high, just feeling important. I love too how we were talking about, just how the superhero stuff is really background. So like, there was one panel in particular, it just kind of made me like smirk, just because I love seeing these little, the superpowers aren't even relatively important. Everyone's got them, everyone's used to them. There was this one panel of this girl pouring wine into a glass, and it was just floating. Because it just kind of made me laugh. I'm like, I
have to talk about where this book hit a big time home run for me, like huge. I mean, because I've always been into conspiracy theories and stuff like that, and it's always been interesting. And they do that big time in this book, man. When he gets Tao is the guy he works for. That's the big bad guy. Super cool. Always calm, never loses his temper, but would kill you without blinking an eye.
What's interesting, too, about that, just side note about that character before you continue, it's like, I love how often the main character talks about how creepy it is, that he just is completely stoic. Because, as a reader, and not reading past this book yet, that interests me to know, like, is he going to have a big breakdown? Is he going to just, lose his mind on the main character? Because every time they introduce a calm character, most of the time they're calm until something happens and they just blow up.
So, I don't see him blowing up though.
No, because it's just kind of stringing me along with a carrot. Like it makes me want to read the rest of the book.
I think that the point of his character, honestly, is that he has such bigger things to deal with, which is what I'm getting into. There's the conspiracy theory, long time now, has been called the Bilderbergs conspiracy theory, where the world leaders meet. And it's a real thing. Like I'm not sure they call themselves that, but the world leaders do meet like every 3 years, I think it is, and they all discuss world politics as they should. That's really something you should do. But this is like they go into it, and he's at this like party. This is like Sodom and Gomorrah at this where he's at, and Miss Misery's walking him through it, and she's not even faced. She's seen it, and he doesn't know. He's like, these are all of the world leaders, and Tao's just over there talking to all of them. And they're all pretty much answering to him, and you're going, man, he's a big shot. And like, this is what's going to happen with oil this year. This country will be plagued with warfare this year. And here will be gas prices will be rising and stuff. And that was really good for me, like, in this book, because I was like, wow, that's, like, something I've always believed in.
Yeah, it's something drawn in front of you of an idea that you are familiar with.
It tells me that Brubaker knew that was the tone he was setting, and it makes me go, hey, I might have a beer with that guy.
Well, he definitely, like, for this book, he definitely plays up all of the, like, mythology of espionage, and, like you're saying, with all the conspiracies. So, like, because it's not just at this party that the Holden, the main character that he goes to, it's not just a party of world leaders. It's a party of the secret world leaders, the people who are actually in charge, like, behind the scenes. They're not politicians. They're the rich corporate whatevers, you know.
Yeah, she even makes reference to that. She says, you're not going to find a president here because he's not really calling the shots.
Yeah, so it definitely, it is definitely just completely playing into all of the, just like the over-the-top, like, level of, not just conspiracy theory, but, like, just the over-the-top level of, secrecy that, like, people expect is going on in the world. Like, everybody, like,
everyone's paranoid.
Everybody's paranoid. They believe that there's some, like, secret, you know, cabal of people that are, like, secretly calling the shots, and that's what's actually going on in this book.
Yeah, and it pretty much points out that the average idiot sitting in the back with a mouthful of Smirnoff ranting about Obama has no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah, he has no idea of the real problem.
Yeah. So that's what hits home with me on that book. I'm like, that's awesome. I think that it's great that they reference that. And honestly, with everything that's going on in the superheroes and stuff, that's why it takes such a beautiful backdrop. Because even though those dudes are big and powerful, or, you know, there's nothing they can do. And they probably don't even know, because the one guy, one of the big villains, he's in the titty bar. He's not actually out doing anything other than his regular villainy. And then you see this guy, you see Tao, and it's like, wow, this is the higher-ups. And this guy, he's in deep cover, and he can't get out. That's the scariest thing. Yeah. As a spy, that is the scariest thing you can go through. So he literally said, I'm going to write a book where we're going to make a sleeper agent, a spy, go through the most dangerous possible scenario.
Yeah.
So he really raised the bar and said it. Sorry. Nobody else is really touching it.
Yeah. I could not see anything written in the style of this even coming close to how good this is. Like, it's such a unique concept. It's executed so perfectly. Just everything about it is 10 out of 10. You know, I was a little thrown off. I guess I didn't necessarily expect the Steel Eye plot. Is that his name, right?
Yeah, Steel Eye.
I didn't expect it to be that obscene, I guess.
Graphic.
That threw me for a loop a little bit.
That is another thing that I like about Sleeper, and this is sort of an extension of, like, why this, because this book was made in 2002, so that time period, that was not to, I do this occasionally on podcasts, but not to get all history of comics on you, but that was a really interesting time in the comic book industry, because Marvel was just trying to come back from their bankruptcy. And so there was like a shift, like a tonal shift in what mainstream comic books looked like. And Marvel and DC were still doing their thing, but you had Wildstorm out there putting out these books, which, you know, there's no, there's cursing, there's nudity. Yeah. They deal with, like, all these adult graphic subject matter, and they don't hold back. They don't add little, like, symbols for the cursing. They don't try to cover it up. It deals with it in a very straightforward manner. The same way that you would expect a movie or an HBO TV series to deal with it.
Yeah, and the thing, too, is also, it didn't feel like it was trying to force itself to be an adult-oriented comic.
It just seemed
it's not adult-oriented in the way that, like underground comics are, where they're just trying to be provocative or trying to be, you know, offensive and gross. It's not like that. It is, like I said, it's just mature. You know, it's...
Yeah. And the other thing to note, really, around that time period of comics is that's not even that far off from the death of Superman, where DC really screwed the pooch on that one. And people hated DC after they found out Superman hadn't really died, and they brought him back.
Right.
So for someone to come in and write books for them this innovative, they should give him all the credit in the world. Because
that's
grace kind of, you know, that's kind of what happened was, you know, when you look at that time period, basically, you know, like I said, there was kind of this turnover, and what was happening was Marvel and DC were kind of scrambling because like the industry was shifting, and they didn't really know what they were doing. And we talked about 2 episodes ago, Luke. We did the book Powers, by Brian Michael Bendis. Again, that was another book that was coming out around this time, 2000, I think. So you had guys like Brian Michael Bendis on Powers. You had Ed Brubaker doing the stuff for Wildstorm. You had Warren Ellis doing The Authority also for Wildstorm and his other books, Transmetropolitan. You had Mark Miller doing his the stuff that he was doing at the time. And what happened was basically Marvel saw what these guys were doing and just went to them and said, that's where they started the Ultimate Universe. And they said, we want to capitalize on what you're doing, and we want to basically do all of our characters in that Wildstorm style. And so that's what Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate X-Men, and the Ultimates really ended up being, was sort of this like science fiction, mature, adult take on their characters.
So now that you say that, it's all clear.
It's all very obvious. Basically what happened was that Ed Brubaker and these guys were all making great comics that Marvel recognized that there was an audience for that, and that's where the audience was going, because as kids' entertainment, comic books just weren't selling anymore.
Yes.
And so they started the Ultimate books, which was all these guys, Warren Ellis, Mark Miller. Ed Brubaker didn't do the Ultimate books, but they brought him in just a few years later to start doing Captain America, and they had Warren Ellis doing Iron Man. They had Mark Miller doing the regular Fantastic Four book. Oh, no. He was doing Ultimate Fantastic Four. Anyway, the point is, they started the Ultimate books, and then about maybe 5 years after that, they started bringing them all in slowly. It got to the point where suddenly all these guys were doing all their regular books. So now, it went from like Wildstorm to Ultimate Universe to just regular Marvel Universe. Like at a certain point, all of Marvel's regular books started kind of being like the Wildstorm books, like Sleeper. Yeah, well, it's what people want to read, and it's what, as we've established, like they're good creators. They know what they're doing. Ed Brubaker is a guy who understands the tropes of the genres. Like, he
understands how to do them and not be overbearing with them.
Well, I think Ed Brubaker's greatest strength is that he knows how to
pick and choose kind of thing.
Well, no, I was going to say he knows how to really maintain the focus on characters.
Yes.
And so what happens is you really just it sort of just becomes a basic just like character drama, he's just writing about like characters that you are relatable and you like, but he plugs them in with all these perfect tropes and scenarios, and so it has the perfect style of a film noir or like a spy espionage, and that's what he did. What he was doing with Gotham Noir and then Sleeper, he brought that to Captain America, and that single-handedly turned Captain America around and completely brought him back to like the huge character that he is now. The Captain America that you see in the Marvel movies is based almost entirely off the work that Ed Brubaker was doing on the book.
He actually has one of my favorite parts of Captain America that he wrote, and it's where Captain America. This isn't an exact quote, by the way, but he said somebody's questioning Captain America. And they're like, don't you need to conform to what the American way is? And he goes, it's not your job to conform. He goes, your job is to plant your feet and don't listen to what everyone else has to say. That's what truth and freedom and justice is about. And that was, to me, that was great because spoke volumes about, because every time they have these characters, they're using them as propaganda. Like, so you can see it in Superman and Captain America. So to see it kind of get out of there is good. And the other thing, too, with Brubaker's characters is he's not held back by continuity. That's great.
Yeah, when he's working on his own books like this, that's really
and especially great. Noir, since it was an Elseworlds book.
Yeah, so he has a lot of creative freedom over his books, and honestly, it makes me really want to read the Wildcats and the Authority and all that, because I do like this continuity that he has for this, but it doesn't have to involve Batman to be cool or any of those characters. Yeah,
exactly.
So that's how you know this guy brings his own blend of premium flavors to the comic book world, and it's absolutely refreshing, especially with comics today.
Which is weird, because something like I struggle to say gritty, because it is, but that's kind of got a stigma, you know. But most of the time when I see a grittier comic book like this, I almost kind of like roll my eyes because they're forcing it to be gritty because that's what people want to see.
They want it to be dark and edgy and
this
not
is
true to
so
itself.
refreshing as far as a gritty comic goes because it's not even trying. It just happens.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, I think what works really well about this book, because again, this book also kind of falls under the umbrella of widescreen comics, even though what I like about it is that it's not strictly widescreen the way that like a Warren Ellis book is widescreen, because Sean Phillips actually has pretty inventive panel layouts. Like I really like the pages where it'll have like a background for like the whole page, and then just like a bunch of like little panels kind of like snaking their way down the page, and it's really effective. It kind of keeps your eye moving around the page, and it's not just like box, here's the box, here's the next box, here's the next box, here's the next box. So I actually think it's a bit more innovative than your standard widescreen comic. But the reason I think it still falls under that umbrella is because of how easily it, as I said, just that feeling, like it feels like this could so easily be a movie. You know, it's something that, or I don't mean that like in a technical level, but like just like in the atmosphere that he's crafted is the kind of thing that movies and TV and books have been doing for a long time. But
it's got good pacing. It's
got good pacing, but it's really fresh for a comic book to do this. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
We were talking on the Powers episode about how there's a Powers pilot coming out.
Yeah.
I am excited for it, but if they announced a pilot for this, I'd lose my mind.
Well, apparently Tom Cruise was working on an adaptation of Sleeper, which
I vote no.
I vote no, thank you.
I can totally see. You know, to be perfectly honest,
I think he would make an okay Tao.
Yeah, I'm sure he would want to play Holden Carver.
Of
course.
I just have such a personal vendetta against him.
Oh, no.
I can't stand him.
I don't like Tom Cruise either, and the few movies that I like that have Tom Cruise in them, I seriously wonder if I would actually like them more if it was a different actor.
Yes.
But while I wouldn't like to see Tom Cruise in a movie about this character, I can say that it is the type of character that Tom Cruise would play in movies. You get what I'm saying?
He is that typecast. And
yeah.
The other thing, too, I wanted to talk about was this character in this book that kind of weirded me out, but not like in a bad way. It didn't like make the book bad or anything. It was just such a strange character. Like I said, everybody's powers, the way that they're tied into their personality or their backstory. The one in particular was the guy with his brother, who they got adopted by this old man, and he was he was a pit bull fighter and trainer, and he threw this poor little kid who started crying to the pit bulls, and made his own brother watch as these pit bulls killed this poor kid. So he has some weird personality trait where he has to like please everyone because he's like, did I do good, master? Like thinks he's a dog, and it's super weird. And he's out on the mission, the train heist mission, where you find out that the dude's name not only has to do with his powers, but the nice little hat that he wears, the conductor. And I got a chuckle out of that.
Yeah,
he's got the hat on. That's cool.
It's a nice little double layer.
But they're on the train, and this dude is with them. And this is like the end of the book.
Issue 6.
Yeah, this is the end of issue 6. And they're on there, and the main character, the conductor, sees, I believe it's his ex-wife.
Yeah.
I don't know if a girlfriend or wife, but
ex relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. And she knows he's turned. So she starts shooting at him immediately.
Yeah.
And they bail. They're like, we're getting off this train. And then the next set of panels goes to genocide, and the conductor are talking, and then all of a sudden the dog guy comes up and he goes, hey, I got something for you over here. And at first I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, oh God, he's setting him up to get him killed or something, right?
Yeah.
Well, the next panel is that he has her husband.
He's got the ex-wife or the ex-girl's new husband
in the trunk, and he's like wagging his tail like, did I do good?
He's like, this is a little present for you.
Yeah, and all of a sudden you just see he's thinking to himself, he's like, you dumb son of a bitch. Now I have to kill you. And he just, and I don't think he actually kills him.
He doesn't kill him. He just beats holy hell out of him.
He just beats him. And the guy's probably got to be thinking, "Oh shit, man, what did I do?"
Yeah.
Right, I can't believe I did this.
Yeah, what did I do? And he's just beating him up, and he unties the guy, and he points a gun at him, and he goes, "Walk."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Tell her to forget I even exist." That's the end of the book.
I thought that was a really powerful ending.
It was.
Yeah.
I was shocked. I'm sitting there going, "Oh man, he just beat that poor kid."
If I wasn't already roped into the book, which I started very early, that ending would have instantly made me go, "Oh, I need the rest of it. I'm fiending."
Yeah, it definitely, like I was saying, like with the characters, he just gives you all these, like, Brubaker just gives you the, like, just raw character connections, you know? I mean, the main character, you know, he's got all this, he's got relationship drama, he's got constantly questioning his ethics and his morality, you know, the whole, like, he does, his whole identity of, like, who he is he a good guy or a bad guy? It's all stuff that, like, you've seen before, but it's just all presented in such, like, a perfect little package with that little twist of, like, these characters have, like, little superpowers, which gives it that little visual flair.
Yeah, it's okay for it to fall into some of the common tropes that it does, as long as character development is good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a principle I think most people should follow. Because it's okay if your book kind of suffers from that, because what hasn't been done 3 ways in the comic book world.
Right.
So that's, you know, all the credit in the world to him for being able to make fresh, great characters with good development in their own continuity.
Especially in an already established trope-filled film noir style.
Yeah, because lately the comic trend is book's not cool enough, throw Batman in it. Book's
Or
not edgy
Wolverine.
enough. Yeah, book's not edgy enough, throw Superman, turn it into Doomsday. I don't know. It's just, but so like reading a comic like this, I just go,
Breath of fresh air.
Yeah, send me back to 2002.
Man, please,
Well,
take me back.
And it's such a, like, you know, it's dangerous because I don't want to, like, fall into this, like, like a Marvel bashing thing. But, like, this is the kind of story you get from an author who's telling you a story about his characters. It's not the kind of story you get from somebody who's writing a story for another property that has to be so concerned about its franchise and, you know, where it's going and what it means for the future of the company and stuff like that. This you know, Sleeper it's like more, I don't know, I'm hesitant to use the term authentic, but, like, it's just like I said, it's what you get from an author, not from a writer, which is such a...
into the, you know, he doesn't have to worry about continuity, especially with this, but, you know, with
Well,
Batman or with Gotham Noir, he just wrote a good story.
It's like in Marvel, though, like the writing in Marvel, I don't know much about it. Like, I haven't been a very avid Marvel reader, but I have read some Stan Lee comics.
Mm-hmm.
He is a good character creator.
Oh, well...
Like, in some instances. Like, Spider-Man, for Spider-Man to have become as big as he has, I don't have choice but to give him credit. But his writing is so bad, they need to keep Stan Lee as far away from a comic book as
I'm going
can.
to take the official position that Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko are good character creators.
It is true.
Stan Lee is a good editor. I do think that Stan Lee was a good editor, and I do... Well, I mean, I'm not going to talk about in terms of, like, his editorial management, but just in terms of... Basically, what this comes down to is Marvel Comics would not be Marvel Comics without Stan Lee. That's really where this argument ends.
Yeah.
However, the bulk of the creativity can be placed squarely on Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko.
It's just like Bob Kane getting credit for Batman when he was...
Exactly. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
But even more so than Bob Kane, like whereas I think Bob Kane he completely grifted Bill Finger. Stan Lee did know how to sell his product. That's really ultimately what he was doing. He sold the product, and he sold it really well.
It's hard not to like him, too, because he is a charismatic old man. I mean, it's hard not to like... But, I mean, I guess that's kind of off the subject of where we are.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I guess I just bring it up because that is bad writing incarnate. If you ever want the opposite of this that we're talking about, go read Stan Lee written comics.
See, I mean, again, we don't have to get into it, but I disagree. I think that the Stan Lee, his writing is good enough depending on which artist that he's working with. I mean, Stan Lee's Spider-Man Like the Steve Ditko era Spider-Man and the Stan Lee Jack Kirby Fantastic Four are brilliant comics, and they are really brilliant. And there's a reason why that they changed the comic book industry as it was at the time, and there's a reason why they completely dethroned DC Comics and Superman as a character.
They almost
for a
bought
long
DC
time
because of it.
Exactly.
Too.
Yeah, they exactly. So I actually do. I really appreciate Stan Lee as a creator, and I don't think that a lot of people think he's just a really bad writer, but I think that the context of the times and who he was writing for also kind of ties into that. Yeah. Like Ed Brubaker is writing for adults, Stan Lee was writing for kids. And I think there is a difference. But yeah, no, I mean I think that the like the Fantastic Four comics especially, I mean those are really brilliant.
I've never been a fan. Never. We even talked about that.
I want to read those so I can know.
We will.
I've never been a fan of those characters in particular. Mm-hmm. Like, that's just a personal preference, honestly. I would never knock anybody else for liking it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only character I even kind of enjoyed from the Fantastic Four, characters would be Doom. Mm-hmm. And even, I don't know.
Doom is one of my favorite villains.
The problem with Doom is that he's kind of like the Batman of villains. They write a lot of really dumb stuff that he can just be the ultimate powerful guy for no reason.
Yeah.
But as a character, I do like him.
Yeah.
Just like Genocide in this book, that guy. That's a good way to tie that back, because I was going to bring that up. One of the things I do like about this book is that Ed Brubaker is in the position of writing a book where all the protagonists are bad guys. Like, the main character's undercover, so he's a really good guy.
But he's playing
a bad guy, and he's working with bad guys, and he does a great job of giving you characters that you start to care about, even though they're bad guys. And Genocide is a good example, because he's a bad guy. He kills people, he beats people up, mercilessly. He doesn't care.
Takes pleasure in his name.
Yeah, he's like a psychopath.
Yes, his T-shirt says population
control. Yeah, and he does that good joke where the character in the narration, he's explaining when he first met Genocide, and the guy called himself Genocide because he just likes killing people.
Yeah.
And the Holden explains to him, he's like, well, Genocide doesn't mean killing people. It means specifically systematically killing one group of people. And Genocide's response is, well, I don't mind doing them one at a time like that.
Especially if I can start with the
cops. As long as I can start with the cops.
Yeah.
So he's a bad guy. Like, he's a crazy killer bad guy. But
he's super likable.
He's really likable, and this is sort of like, this is an interesting little thing. Like, he does give Genocide sort of like this one really redeeming quality, which in my mind is sort of like I'm trying to think of what I would call this. Almost like this wish fulfillment character trait, where a lot of people would see that and be like, yeah, that was the wrong thing to do, but I'm glad he did it because I kind of wish I would have done it, which is when Genocide kills the pedophile, which is the character of Steel Eye. Because that whole plot, that whole story is really good, but that's what happens. One of the bad guys is a pedophile, and the whole thing is like, Tao, the main bad guy, he doesn't care if you murder or rape people because we're all bad guys here. But Genocide, for whatever reason, doesn't like that this guy is raping kids, and he sees the guy do it, and he just loses his mind and just kills the guy. And that is supposed to make you like Genocide, which I think is sort of, it's, like I said, that ties into that whole wish fulfillment thing of everybody hates pedophiles. So
it's like the pedophiles in prison thing. Even they get killed by the most notorious of murderers and rapists and bad people.
Exactly.
They think that you should never harm a child. So that means that even this guy had a line.
Exactly. Even this guy has a line. Like, raping kids is wrong. Murdering cops, no problem. But raping kids is wrong.
Yeah, you can find you could maybe find a justification behind killing a cop. Don't quote me on that. But a child, no.
We have this recording. I'm going to report it to National Homeland Security. It is my
civic
duty.
I'm going to be like, Huey, I'm going to be the domestic terrorist from the Boondocks.
I'm retired.
Well, just as long as they don't read my Facebook feed, I think I'll be okay.
There you go. I don't. They probably take one good look at me and see that I'm not much of a threat.
We'll let it go.
Yeah.
But no, that.
But yeah, that is what they do with that character. Is again, Brubaker gives us a likable bad guy. Like he is a guy with a moral code, as we said.
I mean, if it's a book about someone being a bad guy undercover, like you gotta make him likable. Mm-hmm. Like if the whole narrative's gonna be about this group of bad guys, you know, how are you gonna keep us into it if they're not likable?
It's kind of like this comic is the Glenn Ross of the comic movie, because that movie only had male actors to work with. There was no female, all male cast.
Yeah.
So for you to do an all-villain cast, I mean, that's pretty great. I mean, well, technically all-villain.
Technically, well, I mean, and that kind of becomes like this whole thing of, is he a villain, is he a good guy? And that's the moral questioning that's going on internally, like in his monologue, where he's like, apparently the things I'm doing are for the greater good, but I'm sure that's no comfort for the people that died as a result of me, having to do this.
Yeah, I think Tao even makes note, or someone makes note.
No, it's his immediate superior, because they do flashbacks to the guy that puts him undercover.
Yeah, saying, all these people that you killed have families too.
The leader of the I.O.
John Lynch, the leader of the international operations.
All these people have families too that...
bad guys have families that love them, and
let's hope that you saved more people.
Exactly, it's a numbers game to him.
I haven't read all of the rest of the other books for this, but I do think that he is a good guy.
Yeah,
I just think that he's a good guy, but he's stuck in quite possibly the shittiest situation that you could be in for a job like that. If you're gonna be in deep cover, the last thing you need is for only one person to know and not be around anymore. That would be a terrifying scenario. Mm-hmm. I could not imagine.
Yeah, I have no idea what I would do if the one person I knew that knew I was in cover...
First of all, if the government came to you and asked you to go undercover, I'd be shocked. Any of us, really.
I would just say, why?
Yeah, exactly.
Why me?
The more likely story is the interview with Seth Rogen.
There's a secret Dance Revolution tournament going on an island in Korea, and they need you to infiltrate the ranks.
I get there, and my final match is Kim Jong.
Oh man, I want to see that now.
Yeah,
I want to do that.
Classic.
Somebody call James Franco. We got to make this
interview too. But I love this book so much. Like, I went into it, like I said, I had a preconceived notion of what a Brubaker Phillips book would be from Noir.
Sure.
I struggle to say that it was nothing like Noir, mostly because it was better.
Gotham Noir was like a straight film noir. It was about a detective. This is espionage spy work. So
it's very different.
This is more of like
this is more what I wanted when I saw that
the
style.
Born Identity, stuff like that.
That's
like,
a great way to look at it. Yeah.
It's really more in line with that, and it's got like noir elements to it, but it is definitely more of an espionage thing.
Yeah, you can tell too because I believe Brubaker created the Winter Soldier, didn't he?
Yep.
That's how you can tell this guy loves the espionage.
Exactly.
Because he created possibly the greatest espionage character of all time.
Mm-hmm.
That's an opinion. That can be debated.
I'd say Marvel.
Well,
Marvel-wise, yeah.
I would say that for somebody to actually bring Bucky back, actually do it, and make him like a real character again, and for the fans to not just mercilessly burn him at the stake instantly... says something. Like the fact that Bucky works and continues to work, and
it's so good they ended up doing the
They did the whole movie about it.
Well, DC goes, we got to bring back the second Robin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but
I mean, was that a really early occurrence of them bringing a character back and making him work, or was that the first?
Oh no! I mean, that's the joke is that every dead character eventually comes back. But the joke among Marvel fans is that the only characters that stay dead are Bucky and Uncle Ben. Well, Bucky's come back now, and he's not staying dead. So
Spider-Ben is next. Spider-Gwen, but Spider-Ben. Uncle Ben becomes Spider-Man.
I don't know if in Spider-Gwen Uncle Ben survived and the woman and Aunt May was
shocked. I'm not sure because Peter's
everything is like the opposite in that
Peter's
Spider-Gwen.
gone in Spider-Gwen.
Yeah.
So
interesting. I don't know anything about it.
All I know is I really like the costume she's wearing.
She does
I
have
saw
a
that
great
costume. Yeah.
She does.
Chris drew something.
Yeah, Chris McJunkin did a nice little pinup of Spider-Gwen.
But yeah, I guess if I could give you some final thoughts on this book, because we're not.
I was saying we pretty much hit.
Yeah, we about covered everything.
Because we're on Spider-Gwen conversation.
let's get off that.
Quite a derail.
I feel like we've gone a little bit
None
off
of us know anything about it.
Yeah, there's really not much we could say about Spider-Gwen.
Next time I'm here, Spider-Gwen.
Spider-Gwen.
The next podcast.
Nope.
No.
Probably.
Unofficially.
Probably not.
No, okay, anyways. Honestly, for a book to jump out at me like this and to make me interested in the rest of the continuity, that's great. Because, I mean, very few things do that for me. Like, even if I picked up some of the more recent... I'm usually a graphic novel guy. Because comic book runs can usually be pretty stale. For me, at least. In the books I've tried to buy.
No, I know what you mean.
So, I have to really, really get into a series run for me to commit and wait 6 months to complete a story.
Yep.
So a graphic novel like this that's kind of wrapped up in a neat package, it's like a nice Christmas present. That's the best way you can describe opening this book and reading it, is that it's early morning Christmas present, and you're just like, oh, it's awesome. I just want to keep reading it. And like I said, the characters in this book are absolutely lovable. And I said Miss Misery, she has one of the coolest backstories I think I've ever read in comics. And I've been reading since I was able to read.
Yeah, I do love that backstory.
Yeah.
So this book, I mean, if you even feel interested in it, read it. Please.
Yeah.
Do yourself a favor.
We've said plenty about the book. You would be doing yourself a disservice to not read it yourself. Because while we have covered quite a bit, the dialogue, just the way he monologues to himself is so good film. It's such good film.
If you've come this far listening,
and you haven't read any of the books yet, come on.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Just do it. Just don't. There's 3 people here. Take our word for it.
Yep. Yeah, I think that about covers everything
done.
I think that about covers everything for Sleeper. And
this book of Sleeper.
For Sleeper, for Volume 1. And because honestly, it Brubaker keeps ramping up the plot twists. Like, it keeps going. I would say that it has a really satisfying conclusion, which is another thing that's really...
Because that's it, right? At the end of
the series run has been over for quite some time.
Yes, yeah. But that's another thing, like what you were saying, Derek, about like a comic book run versus a graphic novel. It's nice to have something that's like contained and it's got a beginning and an end. Yeah. And a good comic book run can have that, but it's really dangerous because it can so easily fall into just sort of spinning the wheels territory where it's like they don't want to end it because they're having a good time doing it, so they just kind of throw in here's another plot, here's another plot, here's another plot, and they kind of keep it going.
Comic book filler, especially if you look at like the Amazing Spider-Man runs and stuff like that. That was up to like 270, and that's the most recent run we're talking about before. Right. Before they went into Superior, I believe, was the one that came after that. And I'm like, I could not commit to 270 issues of Spider-Man. I'm sorry. Yep. I have particular issues that I like, and there's probably some graphic novels here and there that I would like. Like, I've read a couple stories that involve, like, Carnage, who's probably my favorite Spider-Man villain. That's not even surprising at all, because I always tend to love the psychopaths. I don't know. So that's my thing. But, comic book run... limited series and graphic novels is the kind of guy I am.
Yeah, I like having that closure. Like, I like knowing I can pick this up, read it, enjoy it, put it back on my bookshelf for another time.
So thank you everybody for listening. Definitely recommend checking out Sleeper if you're a fan of Ed Brubaker and like the stuff he did for Captain America. And I forget what he moved on to do after Captain America. I'm totally not hip to my current goings on, but I mean, like, the Wildstorm books that were going on like in the early 2000s were really interesting, and actually I would say that they were sort of the source of a lot of the innovation that was going on in the comic book industry at the time, which eventually all got persuaded to start working for Marvel and DC. But
see it in this book.
Yeah, but like it all happened here. Like this is definitely like a precursor to all that. So I definitely recommend it. So thank you everybody for checking us out. My name is Aaron Walther. You can find me on Facebook. I am also on Twitter at AAWALTHER. That's AA Walther. And you can find comics that I have written at my website, newhavencomics.com. You can also go to my website, aaronwalther.com, where I occasionally blog, and I've also kind of got more of a portfolio of my work. And we will be uploading new episodes of this podcast, Comic DNA, at comicdna.podbean.com. So please, if you like this, check it out. Listen to some other episodes. Lucas?
You can always find me at Facebook, Luke Moritz, and you can also find me at Twitter at Luke T. Moritz.
And be sure to come back for our next episode. We are going to be joined by special guest Gabriel Dunstan, and he is going to join us in a discussion about the book Rex Libris by James Turner and published by Slave Labor Graphics in 2005. So, thank you all for listening. We'll see you next time.